So when I first started killing time with hand embroidery, I made a whole bunch of these little patches. They've been kind of gathering dust for a while now and I've not done anything to them. So I decided maybe it's time. So I got my pink gold jacket out. I'm gonna figure something out. So these little ones are gonna go on the sleeves, and I'm gonna make a bigger one to stick on the back as well. It took me a little bit of time to make up my mind on the size I wanted it to be. I never actually made a patch this big before, but I prepped plenty of embroidery floss and all other little things, which I'm gonna leave links to in the description if you need them. And I think I'm good to go. This video is going to be short and sweet because the project's actually pretty simple. I didn't put any crazy effort into it, just a bit of time and a few little things to help out. Anyway, the party has started. Let's get this patch embroidered. So a few things to mention. The fabric that I'm using for the base of this patch is just a piece of natural canvas. It's medium weight, I think. And I didn't use any fabric stabilizer as the canvas is pretty strong and thick itself, so I felt no need for it. Just drew out my lines and went on embroidering. And the thread that I'm using is by DMC brand. They're definitely my favorite to use, but there are others that you can find cheaper for sure. Check it out online or visit a craft shop, you'll find options. So to embroider, I just alternated short and longish stitches to make it look consistent throughout. And by consistent, I kind of mean just the perfect mess, if that makes sense at all. I actually had to learn some lessons while I was embroidering smaller patches. I found that long stitches become loose after a little while, and if I made all stitches same length, it looked kind of ugly. So I knew what I was getting myself into with this big one and tried not to repeat any mistakes. Anyway, embroidering the whites was nothing tricky. The black ones, the black outline, need a little more attention, but mainly was just time consuming. I didn't use any difficult stitches, and I think it turned out to be pretty good looking. Again, it's a very simple design to embroider. So when I was done embroidering, I had to figure out the best way to attach these faces to the jacket. I don't do a lot of machine sewing, actually don't do machine sewing at all, so I had to look into other options. My other options being, one, I could try and sew them on by hand. That though would take hours and hours, which I didn't want to do. And I could also try and use fabric glue, but I know that could get very ugly very quickly, plus I'd rather avoid this kind of anxiety. So I decided to try and iron them on and hope that they don't fall off in a week or two. I found this iron-on paper you can get. It's super cheap and it works wonders as it turns out later on. But before I show you what to do with that paper, first I gotta tidy up my patches. And this was the hardest part of the whole project, I want to say. And I don't even know if it's the best way of doing it. At this point, I'm just kind of winging it. But I decided to cut the extra fabric into small parts and hand sew them to the back of the patches, and then iron the paper on. Hand stitching did take a bit of time, but it's nothing compared to the time I'd have to put into actually sewing the whole batch of these guys to the jacket. So I think I made the right choice doing it this way. I don't know, I'll have to do some research on how to finish the edges later. For now, this is what I'm working with. I'm probably gonna do something different next time I decide to make a hand embroidered patch. Although if you have any experience with it, please do leave some tips in the comments for me, I'd love that. And when I was done with my first one and just did the exact same thing to all other ones, it was time to get started on the heat bond paper part. This thing has a rough side and a smooth one. The rough one goes on the back of the patch. The smooth one has a peel-off layer, but that's for later. Basically, I just put an iron on for a few seconds and it stuck to it, and I just repeated the same thing for every patch I had. Once the paper was stuck to it, I needed to cut off the extras, and I was pretty much good to go. Oh wait, not also good to go. I actually noticed I had canvas showing on the edges of the patches, and I needed to be black, so I had to figure out a way of fixing it. And after much thought, I decided the best and, well, let's say the easiest thing I could do would be, you'll never guess. I just colored it in with a Sharpie. Yep, I just used a Sharpie. It actually worked really well, and from afar you can't even tell, so I called that a win. I used the magic of Sharpie on all other patches, including the big one. Thank you, Sharpie makers, for saving the day. I wanted to see how the patches would look on the sleeves, so I just laid them out along the shoulder seam. Yep, upside down. It's the happy sad sort of situation if you were wondering, because you know, life. Anyway, the smooth part of the paper peels off, and I can finally iron the patches onto the jacket. First, I tried to protect the embroidery and use a piece of fabric to cover it, but pretty much no matter how long I had the iron on there, it was not sticking, like at all, zero outcome. I didn't want to start a fire by pressing for too long, so I ditched that and tried without it, which kind of worked after a while. My cheap ass iron doesn't get as hot as I'd like it to, so I had to hold it there much longer than I planned to, and luckily I didn't ruin it. Hand embroidery is a risky craft as it turns out. But I think my problem was actually my fatty patches. A little too thick maybe? Another note to self for the future for sure. But hey, it worked out, didn't it? Once all faces were on the jacket, and trust me, they're there for good. This heat paper works like super glue. I'm not even kidding, it's stuck there for decades, I swear. So the last little bit of this project is the tag. And I don't mean like a tag. I just made the smallest patch I could make and stuck it to the inside of the jacket. Just because I wanted to. And this, my friends, is pretty much it. I've always thought it's cool to upcycle clothes, and I've always kind of admired people who did that. I got to do it for the first time today myself, so yeah, I'm pretty pumped. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, guys, please do the like button thing down there. And if you feel like you'd enjoy more of this kind of stuff, do the subscribe thing as well. Thank you for watching.